Good morning and welcome again to another edition of Blain's Morning Porridge. Today it's October 22nd, 2025. As long as there is instability and uncertainty, there will always be the yellow metal. Every day I always start with a quote, and this morning's is a bit longer than usual. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. Now I'll come back to the relevance of that quote towards the end of this short Morning Porridge blog. Gold stumbled earlier this week. Is it a bursting bubble? No, markets are going to remain uncertain, and while the world's geopolitical polarity is shifting, gold remains the key safe haven play. Now that geopolitical shift is being accelerated by events, especially in terms of geopolitics, as the stability that has fueled the last 80 years of growth is undermined by bad politics and divisions. Now, despite the recent 6% drop in gold prices on Tuesday, gold remains the ultimate safe haven asset in a world that is defined by increasing geopolitical instability, weakening US leadership, and global economic uncertainty. And some of the key points that I'll cover in this morning's porridge are that the recent fall in gold prices are probably nothing more than a correction. I don't think they look like a crash. Nothing fundamental has changed. The volatility reflects broader market turbulence, but also a number of other market factors, such as Indian farmers buying less gold now that we're into the Indian wedding season. Typically, gold prices move in line with how much Indian farmers are spending on making sure their daughters have loads of gold bangles for their weddings. And this year, most of that buying is already done. Now, another thing to look at is how central banks now hold more gold than they hold US dollars in value terms, and that signals a shift in global confidence, and it's a key hint about the weakening dominance of the US dollar. Now, demand for China has been a major driver of golds this year. We reckon that over 90 tons of gold has flowed into China. If that Chinese buying was suddenly to slow, it might cap prices, but I doubt it will reverse the long-term upward trend because it won't end instability. Now, gold's enduring appeal lies in its role as a store of value during unstable times. Unlike crypto, it holds tangible historical security, and that has been proven throughout history. If I can give you an example, during the Second World War, airmen would sew gold sovereigns into their uniforms, knowing that they could use them to bribe peasants to guide them to escape routes. And the reason that pirates used to bury their pots of gold or their treasure chests on deserted desert islands when they faced a battle was it was the best form of pension pot they could create. We've always known that gold was a great store of value. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't pay interest, and that's one of the reasons that many people who believe that gold is overvalued is set to fall. They say that once gold prices stabilize, why not just hold it in cash at the bank? You get paid interest. Well, the reason you might not want to do that is that we still face a very highly inflationary, an inflation threat, and there is still the chronic instability. Now, if I was to point towards one thing amongst all the other risks, such as maybe the Chinese moving on Taiwan, or the tech fragility that we saw earlier this week with the Amazon Web Services outage, or the growth of populism in Europe, or the artificial intelligence bubble, and the private debt risks I was talking about yesterday, if there's one thing that really has made the world more insecure this year, it has been Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump's trade and foreign policies have accelerated the geopolitical power shift that's occurring. And that typically happens every 120 odd years. We call that the 2K cycle, two Kondratiev cycles. And typically, after these two cycles, you get a change in the global hegemon, the richest, most powerful nation. And that does seem to be happening now. And Trump has accelerated that. He's undermined US alliances, which were one of the key parts of their hegemonic power. He's undermined confidence in the dollar, and as a result, that has fueled the demand for gold. The US deficit, which is growing under his big beautiful bill policies, and dollar devaluation, another deliberate policy, and the declining trust in the US hegemony, are driving investors to hedge themselves with gold, especially as global trade is moving away from dollar dependence. China is very keen to see that happen. They want to form their own trade rails out of China, around Southeast Asia, and all the way through the Middle East to Europe. Now, we don't have a clear successor to the dollar yet. It will not necessarily be the Chinese renminbi. It certainly won't be the euro. Therefore, gold remains the natural alternative reserve asset. And as long as the world is divided, uncertain and mistrustful of political leadership, especially in America, gold will continue to shine as the ultimate store of value and symbol of stability. And that's why I've chosen this morning's rather convoluted and longer than usual quote. I was reminded of it reading The Atlantic. Now, I read The Atlantic magazine because I do like to get a daily dose of Trump derangement syndrome juice. Let me repeat the quote to save you going back to the top of this blog. In 1963, a previous US president told America at his inauguration, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty." Compare and contrast to today. That's the fundamental difference between today and the days of the Cold War. Back in 1963, we knew the dictators, the autocrats, the thieves, the frauds, and the thugs were our enemies, and our leaders stood foursquare against them. Today we look at the White House and we wonder what sort of deal Donald Trump has proposed to them. And that's it for this morning's porridge. Every day you can catch the full morning porridge if you sign up for the email on www.morningporridge.com, and it is usually followed by this vlog and then a podcast later in the day. Thanks very much for your attention, and I'll be back again tomorrow with more.